Hi, everybody. I hope that it will be easy for you to remember me because I'm the small girl with the big brace and I can't walk so well, but I'm going to tell you about my walking tour project anyways. So here at Houston are public-generated audio walking tours. What this means is that all sorts of folks from all different neighborhoods around our city go out. They take a walk. They tell stories, juicy memories, they tell intimate observations, information they might know, their own specific knowledge about the area that they're in. They are using an audio recorder, and then they upload the MP3 to hereathouston.com, where anybody can download it for free and retrace their steps, share headspace with the walk maker, and layer meaning into geography. So let me address what you are all thinking, which is walking tours in Houston. I know. Especially in the summer, the impulse when you see someone walking is to roll down your window and ask them, what is wrong with you? What is wrong? Do you need a ride? So for this reason, walking in our city is a radical act. For this reason, it's a great place to do this project, because although our city is flat and massive, there's a lot under there. There's a lot underneath the surface. These tours are a way to excavate those hidden gems from the perspective of people who know them best. So let me give you a whole bunch of examples of what we have made and are in the works, and at the same time, I want you to be thinking of how you can do something completely different. So, some tours rely on an expert eye view, but they're not your typical museum tours. You can expect to hear historical information layered with the personal, maybe some tall tales, things that'll make you laugh, things that are interesting on a very human level. For example, there's a close-up look at Houston's native plant life by local community gardeners. A tour of street art by one of Houston's most prolific artists, Daniel Angelou. You can see him painting Lawndale right now if you go outside. A listen in on bird songs by avid bird caller in the Rice Arboretum. And a tour by a local business owner, Pete Gordon, who owns the Continental Club. He talks about historic music venues in Houston, as well as sort of how he's seen Midtown evolve through the 10 years that he's been there. So this idea of getting to look in on where somebody calls home from their perspective is also involved in these tours. So this is Heather Korb. She's a documentary filmmaker, a Heights resident. She loves and champions everything about the Heights, and you can hear it in her very glamorous tour shopping on 19th Street. She also loves cats and dogs. So Regina Agu is a writer, dancer, poet, artist, and she lives in Elder Street Artist Lofts, which is actually built in an old hospital that was built on a cemetery. But Regina takes a different sort of look at this and points out areas of regrowth that she goes and wonders at every day on her daily walk in the First Ward. Ayana Jolivet McLeod is the founder of La Botanica in the Third Ward, where she grew up taking classes at the Shape Center. So she's a really amazing example of somebody who grew up to inspire and activate the space where they learned from when they were young. She takes you around the Third Ward. So Stephanie Toppin is a very charming writer and artist as well, and she has made a very delicious tour on Hillcroft, where she grew up learning about different cultures through their foods. So on this tour, you should go hungry, because you'll have a lot of bites to eat. So other tours have more of an unexpected combination of an interesting perspective with a well-trodden path. For example, Sasha Della is a contemporary art curator, and she helps us understand Houston's water supply through contemporary art, believe it or not. Lara Appleby is an entomologist, and she studies ant colonies, but in her lovely, calming walk through Boulevard Oaks, she sort of theorizes and analyzes how the specimen in Boulevard Oaks have made their colony. And Indra Rapalavichuti is a local yoga goddess who manages to make a very meditative walk even during morning rush hour. So all of these tours allow you to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. All of these tours help you understand somebody else's perspectives. I want to tell you about some in particular that help you sort of get the inside view on people who we're curious about but don't always have the chance to understand. For example, Kelly Moore and Addie Say are both writers. They take a walk through the St. Thomas campus where Kelly's in a wheelchair and Addie's on foot, and they sort of describe the different ways that navigating the city can be. Kelly talks about how the city with its cracks in the sidewalks and no ramps can be a maze, but she arrives at the St. Thomas Labyrinth and talks about how that's a very meditative, safe space to be in contrast. Let me go back. Another example of a tour that's more about getting in somebody's point of view, the makers of the Gender book do a tour where they go both through historic places in Houston and places of support for people who are transgender. We also partner with writers in the schools who help us see from our young generation's point of view what their communities are like and how they want to be involved with it. We also have tours by people who've been homeless in Houston and what it's like to be a recently resettled refugee in our city. So you may be wondering why am I doing this? All of the projects that I do start with a personal ritual. And I've worked with a lot of different populations, and I feel like although art can sometimes tell somebody else's story, I feel more authentic about using art to empower people to tell their own stories. I first started really walking in Houston from my apartment to the medical center when my mom was being treated for terminal cancer. At that time, I was thinking of a walk as this breath and this break and this space. And at the same time, I was constantly listening to audiobooks, like one after the other, all the time, just to sort of be in anybody else's story but my own, and also understand how my story fit into the bigger picture. So these two practices have evolved in a way that celebrates my city, my home, our Houston, and at the same time preserves our oral history and layers meaning into the common sense of space that we share. So my challenge to you is to think about where you walk, to think about what you have to say, what you, the tribes, the groups, the stories that you represent can tell us. We want to hear Houston in your words. We want to walk a mile in your shoes, so we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.